Boldwood presents The Stolen Children of War, written by Jina Bacarr and read by Laurel Lefko. To every brave resistance fighter who fought the Nazis and for freedom under the big top. Prologue. Roubaix, France, near the French-Belgium border, March 1943. Circus Richter. Leah. The fat Gestapo man is chasing her. The beautiful circus queen with the white blonde siren hair, silver-spangled costume. She trips over her heavy satin cape and falls to her knees, ripping her leotard and hitting the ground hard. Her face scrunches up with pain. She struggles to pull herself up. She can't. She tries again, stumbles forward with a look of desperation on her face, as if she knows her fate, but she won't give in, even though the Gestapo agent is in fast pursuit. "Damn it, this isn't happening to me," she whispers. "I'm the queen of the air." She struggles to breathe, but the secret policeman grabs her, planks his corpulent bulk astride her, his rough hand pushing her face into the moist earth. "Ah!" she gags, choking when he wraps a leather strap tight around her neck. Her eyes widen with horror, and she can't breathe. Sawdust and bits of straw from bales of hay swirl around her, flying up her nostrils, getting in her eyes, her hair. "Where is she, Fräulein?" the Gestapo agent demands. "Get off me, you beast!" "You French whore, you're no match for me." "You disgust me." She barely coughs out the words, pulling at the strap, cutting off her air. Fear tightens the skin around her eyes, squinting to see her attacker, but she can't. He yanks on her hair, lifting up her face. She's gasping for air, and there's no mistaking his intentions. She has seconds left before she passes out and ends up cuffed and helpless, but she won't give up. "Tell me where the Jew is now, Fräulein, or I shall pull the strap so tight your eyes will explode in your skull." "I don't know what you're talking about." She spits out the words, her cheeks wet with a light drizzle, her eyelashes soaked, forcing her eyes shut. She puts her hand to her face. She can't see. She gasps with fear. "Stop lying. You're a member of the underground and you know what we do to your kind." "Me? I risk my life for no one, monsieur," she sputters when he loosens the strap around her neck, hoping she'll talk. "You can't escape the Gestapo. I shall ask you again, and this time you will answer." He reaches underneath her cape and squeezes her breast, making her yell out with pain. "You pervert," she sputters. "I saw you, watching me, coming down the rope after my trapeze act. You couldn't take your beady eyes off me." "You're a beautiful woman, Fräulein, but you made a big mistake when you took on the Gestapo with your silly games, swinging your cape in my face." He touches his cheek, a red welt appearing on his ruddy skin. "How did I know you weren't a lion when you jumped me?" She finds her voice, the strap around her neck loose for the moment. "I will arrest you if you don't give me what I want." The Gestapo agent keeps his hold on the girl. He makes guttural noises in a raspy voice, grunts. His black trench coat is pulled too tight with a thick belt, big buttons, fedora. "You're from Berlin, monsieur, n'est-ce pas?" the girl blurts out, trying to stall. He smirks, curious. "How did you know?" "Your accent, clipped, harsh." She spits on the ground to clear the dirt out of her throat. "Like you." Her attitude angers him. "You're trying my patience, Fräulein." He huffs and puffs and pulls on the strap around her throat, making her eyes bug out, and then loosens it, not enough to let her go, enjoying his game of torture. She grabs her throat and takes advantage of the moment, twisting her head around and staring him down. "What are you doing here?" she blurts out. "Hunting for rabbits?" "No, Jews. You won't find any Jews here, monsieur. They escaped over the French-Belgian border. You mean what used to be the border, Fräulein. We own everything now, including you. You and your Nazi thugs will never own me. We'll see how brave you are when you're deported to a labor camp and dumped into the lap of a depraved SS guard, hungry for female company. You can't deport me. I'm the star of the show. Besides, what would the Führer say? She dares him. He loves circuses. He hates Jews more. You're a fool, Fräulein. Esther Feller is an enemy of the Reich, aiding Jews with forged papers. Unfortunately for you, an informant gave you up, that you're hiding her and her children. Who? She asks, looking for a rock, something to strike back at him with. That's my concern. Now shall we continue our little game at police headquarters, or end it here? It's got to be Nadia. That bitch is jealous of me because I'm the headliner on the trapeze. And you fell for her lies, monsieur. You're the fool. He slaps the girl hard. She cries out, puts her hand on her hot cheek. Coward, she whispers, under her breath. Why are you protecting this Jewish woman? She can't mean anything to you. I don't care what happens to her or her children. I don't believe you. You're not the first member of the resistance I've tortured who's skilled in deception. You're all the same. Protesting you know nothing while enduring excruciating manipulation of the human spine or broken bones or searing fire on your skin. You know nothing about circus people, monsieur. That we endure intense, grueling pain every day under the big top, working our bodies to the maximum to perform our act. She lifts her head, her cheeks wet with drizzling rain. You can't kill us, monsieur. We're too tough. No, watch me, Fräulein. The Gestapo man pulls the rope tighter. Numbness overcomes her. Painful gasps erupt from her throat. She can't speak, but you can see it in her eyes. She knows she's going to die. He laughs, raucous, insane laughter that makes her shiver uncontrollably. She claws at the cold, hard ground. Her nails crack. Her spangled costume rips. She struggles, strains to keep alive. Her breasts heaving up and down, her lips turning blue under her clown-red lipstick. She won't give up. For the last time, Fräulein, where is Esther Feller? Damn you and your Reich. Whatever you do to me, I won't tell you anything. The Gestapo man curses, then pulls on the leather strap around her neck and squeezes it tight. Then go to hell. Part 1. Once Upon a Circus. Chapter 1. Paris, France, 2007. Le Cirque Casini. Leah. I am appalled the director put that scene in the film. No one could escape from the Gestapo squeezing a leather strap around their neck and wearing silver spangles yet, I quip, when the lights go on under the big top. I cringe when the technician freezes that moment on the big screen, rising 20 meters high behind me. Alas, there I am, albeit a younger version of me, played by a wonderful British actress, splayed out on the ground, like a nearsighted goose with her feathers plucked, the Nazi strangling me. I clear my throat. I can't let this pass. I did escape from the worst excuse for a man God ever created on that drizzly, ugly night in 1943. I explain. But it wasn't that dramatic. And Lord knows I didn't give myself away, clamming up and boasting I'd say nothing more. I was at a turning point back then, working in the downtrodden Circus Richter, camped out on the field of an abandoned mill in Roubaix in northern France, more than 200 kilometers from Paris, when I was accused of being a member of the resistance when I wasn't. But my maternal instinct was so strong to save those children. I acted first without thinking about what insanity I was getting myself into. Why? I have secrets, mes amis, which shall be revealed in time. But for this scene, it's what they call drama. I smirk. There was plenty of that in my life. The scriptwriter didn't need to make up this merde. But that's Hollywood for you. What propaganda, but the audience is eating it up. Cheers, whistles, foot stomping. For me? Incredible. I'm an artiste, an aerialist, not a cinema star, though I doubled for Sylvie Martin on the trapeze in 1929. Since I know something about the art of filmmaking, I wasn't surprised when the Tinseltown producers pushed me into promoting the film. Which brings me here today. I'm seated in the middle of the sawdust ring, speaking to the crowd gathered here for a special evening to celebrate my life in the circus. The film is titled Queen of the Flying Trapeze. Yes, I know it's cheesy and I cringe every time I hear it, but I have no say over what they call it. It's in my contract. The producers insist they know what sells tickets. Why I ever agreed to this overblown spectacle of a hyped-up soap opera on the silver screen about something that happened over 64 years ago, I don't know. But here I am, so let's get on with it. I feel like a rock star with all this fanfare, I tell the crowd with a chuckle. Of course I can't sing. I dance a little, but oh, I can fly. Soar and dip like an angel without wings, float in midair, pirouette without my feet touching the earth. At your age, someone yells out. Guffaws, nervous laughter follows. I shade my eyes from the harsh lights to seek out the impervious heckler. There he is, smug little twerp in the front row press box with what the Americans call a buzz cut. A reporter, no less. I'll show him. I see that skeptical look on your face and that squint in your eye, monsieur. You don't believe me, yet you're curious. You read the press kit, and that enticed you to come here today. Get a look at the old broad, I hear you saying to your colleagues. See how she's held up? I grin. I assure you what I said is true. My memory is exceptional, nourished by a lifetime of keeping my moving parts moving, allowing me to tell you a story I never told. All of us gathered here under the big top, not to just celebrate my 100th birthday, but my clandestine life in the circus during the war. Yes, that war. Black and white and Nazi red all over. I still marvel at how we circus folk survived the years of insanity after the damn Boche strapped on their jackboots and marched across Europe, clawing and grabbing up countries and destroying lives. Circus lives, if you were Jewish. We must never forget. So I'm tossing it out there. Ask me anything. I'm here for you. They had circuses during the war? Someone asks, in a decent manner, thank you. Yes. When the Nazis Aryanized businesses after Hitler came to power in 1933, we circus folk performing in Germany went about earning our daily brot. It doesn't involve us, we said and shrugged. We were golden, untouchable because Hitler loved the circus. Even Goebbels gave us his stamp of approval. We had carte blanche to travel from town to town, cross borders with hard-to-get transit permits signed by snickering Nazi officials. We thought we were out of the reach of the long arm of the Third Reich. We weren't. And that's why I'm here today, seated on a royal blue velvet chair, on a varnished black platform, decorated with fancy chinoiserie that we used for a magic act, speaking before a full house, what we call a straw house because there's nowhere left to sit but on bales of hay. I point to the reporter with the attitude, stick that up your... I catch myself before I go completely off script. The truth is I'm amazed at the reception I've received when news went out about a special screening of the film. Cameras, microphone clipped to my bosom, a queue around the main show tent all day, everyone waiting to get in, then sitting still in their seats, anxious for me to speak. I suppose you're going to get a few heckling reporters eager to stand out. They don't bother me. If I can put up with disgusting, porcupine Nazi officers gawking at me and yelling lewd comments, I can take on baby-faced reporters. I let out a sigh. Whoever would have thought that skinny little girl doing tricks on galloping ponies would end up here in the famous Cirque Casini in Paris, a traveling circus that traces its roots back to the first equestrian show during the time of Louis XV and the court of Versailles. A first-class operation in every way, from the high caliber of the performers to the stalls swept clean after every show. I wasn't always so fortunate to work under the big top in such a prestigious venue. My work for the resistance began far away from Paris, near the French-Belgian border, in that flea-bag operation you saw in the scene from the film known as Circus Richter, and as I mentioned, where I encountered the Gestapo man. Though my circus life started way before that. I first came to the circus in 1920. During the glory years, I continue. I was 13, vaulting onto a pony, racing around the ring in a circle and doing tricks. I lean forward, a twinkle in my eye, alerting the audience I'm about to reveal a secret. Well, kind of. But I love the anticipation it creates. Like when they shine the spotlight on me, when I ascend the rope ladder and miss a step and save myself from falling. Do you know why we ride around in a circle? So you don't get lost? Comes another sarcastic remark from that reporter. Trying to take my spotlight? I'll show you. So we can take pot shots at smart aleck reporters, I say, losing my patience. I muster up my courage and mimic a slingshot going off in his direction. I never miss. The audience loves it. More cheers, laughter, not what I call professional on my part, but he had it coming. I calm down and explain to the audience the science behind trick riding and pray it's not too boring, how the centrifugal force generated going around in circles in a ring 13 meters in diameter helped me keep my balance on the back of a horse at full gallop. I loved riding bareback, standing tall even at that young age, jumping through a hoop and doing somersaults. I felt somebody, that I belonged, and people liked me. Something I lost when my mother left us, Papa and me. That's not in the film, but it should be. I take a moment to enjoy my reverie after putting the reporter in the hot seat. Not bad for this old broad, but it's easy for me to be brave when you know the only punishment you'll receive is a bad review and not a trip to a transit camp outside Paris like Drancy. And then the worst possible horror a human being can endure in a camp like Auschwitz or Ravensbrück. Not just certain death, but the inhumane conditions and disgusting medical experiments the Nazis performed on women. How did I make it through those times? Why did I survive? Why me? I often ask myself. I'm just a circus queen, an old circus queen, I admit, but maybe that's what makes me strong. I never admitted I couldn't do something. I believed in myself and the brave resistance fighters I teamed up with, and we did it. We saved those children. After the war, me, along with the British and American War Departments, came up with a confirmed list of 67 children I saved from the Nazis. There could be more, since many survivors chose never to speak about the war. Children stolen from their families, their parents sent to their deaths. I know there are other great humanitarians who did much more than I did to save the children. But they say God gives us only what we can handle. I believe that, because I wasn't perfect and I made mistakes. I was brave on the trapeze, sure. It was my life since I was a young girl. But I kept my head down when the Germans first came, just trying to survive. I had such upheaval in my life, growing up. A poor excuse. but I lived in fear of being discarded like a broken wheel since I was a small child if I couldn't prove my worth. I came up the hard way with a drunk for a father, a mother who left me, trying anything I could to find my place in the circus. My papa was Roma and a horse trader. I get my blonde hair, toujours blonde, no snickering please, from my mother, an English beauty I knew for too short of a time. I remember her riding a shiny bay mare and smiling at me. I adored her. Then one day she was gone. I was 8. I pause. Enough said. That part of my life isn't important here. All you need to know is I ended up in the circus thanks to my papa's strong affinity for liquor, I say in a firm voice. Odd, you say. Not when you know the facts. He paid no attention to me after Maman was gone, leaving me free to find my playground in the horse corral, riding ponies bareback in the ring under the guidance of an ex-circus man with a Russian accent, and stories about the Romanov girls and their ponies that made my head spin and my passion soar to ride like a princess. I found a loving home here in the circus, a place of refuge for people, not just unloved little girls, but people who'd been persecuted because of their religion, race, or disabilities. I learned how to survive in a world that didn't want us by putting my talent to work on the trapeze. By the time I was 16, I was an experienced aerialist, performing double somersaults, then the double with the half twist and pirouettes back to the bar. I did my act on the trapeze twice a day, anywhere I could. I performed with circuses from Lyon to Marseille, to Bern to Rome, and then back up the boot to Berlin. I take a beat, wondering if they're ready for my scandalous story about the time I performed for Hitler. Why not? I had my share of run-ins with the Nazis, including meeting the Führer. I hear the whispers, the shocked mutterings. I chuckle. I knew that would get your attention, and I shan't disappoint. Come back with me to 1936, when I was working in the Swope Circus, a racially pure circus, appearing at the Wintergarten Theater in Berlin. I was a seasoned performer, and excited to be the featured act on the Roman rings and the trapeze. I was quite the stunner back then, standing taller than most aerialists on the platform affixed to the ceiling of the big top, which made me appear like an Amazon high up on the perch, arching my left foot and pointing my toe. I had gold blonde hair, slim body, strong arms, and green eyes. I've been told by one admirer who had a way with words that they shone like 2 emeralds wet with dew under the lights. I shall never forget the evening performance when I caught Hitler's eye in my form-fitting costume, covered with red spangles and gold sequins. When I ascended the rope up to the platform, the perverted little man couldn't take his eyes off me. Nobody loved the circus more than Hitler. He was often seen in the front row cheering what he deemed regular folk, risking their lives to prove their superior athletic abilities, a trait he admired. He loved acts that featured a danger element, and I fit the bill high up on the trapeze. With my light hair and green eyes, I passed for an Aryan, so it was no surprise I was invited to give a performance for our special guests. I protested, of course, but the ringmaster grabbed me by the arm and spit harsh words into my ear. You have no choice, Fräulein de Montieri, or there will be consequences. Now get up there and give our leader what he wants. I didn't like the sound of that, but the show must go on even for that madman. I did my act on the rings with as much aplomb as a girl could, with this monster staring at my butt as I twirled and twisted, hung upside down, my legs spread wide in a split, breasts heaving, not that he could see much that high up in the big top. But I felt his stare and it chilled me, knowing he held my fate in his hands. If he wasn't pleased with my skills as an artiste, or he discovered I'm half Roma, I'd be arrested, then deported, That hit me hard. The unfairness, the quirk of fate that determines our journey in life, and how damned hard it is to make your way in the world. Even harder to achieve your bliss if you're a woman. For me, it's flying. How dare he or anyone judge me by my birth father, even if Papa was a mean bastard. Strange I can still say this without hating him, but the man is a talented horsebreaker and trainer. I hadn't seen him for years, and the last I'd heard he was corralling horses working at Longchamp racetrack in Paris. Something changed in me then. I swore I'd do whatever I could to help anyone caught in that madman's snare, to take a stand against the National Socialist Party. We'd already seen what they were capable of with the Vatican. After Hitler forced the Holy Father to recognize the Reich, the Nazis closed Catholic schools and imprisoned priests. Public book burnings followed, and in 1935 they introduced the Nuremberg race laws that reduced anyone with a specific defined Jewish ancestry to non-citizen status. None of this was on my mind while I did my act. All I wanted was to get it over with, go back to my quarters, strip off my costume, and wash the dried-up sweat off my skin. Pick off the loose spangles stuck in my armpits. You can't be an artiste and not wear spangles. Annoying, glowy slivers of silver and gold dripping from my costume that tickle me and end up in the oddest places. Then it all went wrong. I descended the rope quicker than usual, the coarse fibers burning my fingers, my palms. I was determined to make my exit without a bow, but my brave resolve disappeared in an instant. I'm embarrassed to say I froze when an official Nazi photographer from the German magazine for girls, Das Deutsche Madel, snapped a picture of me standing in the sawdust ring flanked by the Führer and Goebbels on either side. Later, I found out he also shot photos of me on the rings. I was scared, really scared. What could I do? What would you do? Think about it. I let that thought sink into their heads. Then I lay this on them. I remember how angry I got when a hard squeeze on my buttocks made my eyes pop open wide as the photographer snapped the photo. I don't know who pinched me. I shuddered to think it was the little man himself, but it shocked me back to reality. I choked up and fumbled words of protest until Goebbels whispered in my ear, "Be careful, Fräulein, or you shall be the new attraction at Salon Kitty." I shut up damn quick. No way was I going to be fodder for the Berlin brothel, catering to high-ranking party members and SS officers. I smile now, but for a long time afterward I groveled with my cowardice, convincing myself the only way to redeem my actions was to work behind the scenes, rally with others against a political party that pushed women out of the workforce and reduced them to baby-making factories. I didn't find the courage until years later when I met a remarkable Jewish woman and mother I will never forget. Was at the end to my adventure with the Führer? I tease, shaking my head. It got worse. Margit Swope, whose family owned the circus for more than 70 years, wanted to score points with the Führer after her new husband admitted he had a distant Jewish relative. She used me and a too playful lion to spice up the evening with a grand finale. Oohs and ahs. Hitler had no taste for the lion act. But Frau Swope knew he had a weakness for a woman in danger in the circus, so "You put your head between the lion's jaws?" someone asks with a smirk. "Would you?" I shoot back. Laughter. I was scared, yes, but I was also determined not to show weakness in front of the Nazi leaders. I entered the big cage in the center of the ring, put one foot on the lion tamer's chair, and struck a pose while the trainer arranged the lion's paw on my left shoulder. I held still for as long as it took for the photographer to poke his head through the bars and snap the picture. Then Hitler jumped up and applauded my bravery while the crowd yelled Heil Hitler and angered the lion. He, the lion that is, roared so loud my ears hurt. But when the flashbulb went off, the big cat lurched forward and struck out toward me with its big paw and ripped my skin. I lower my eyes. I hear heavy breathing, mine, but not another sound under the big tent, not even a kernel of popcorn popping. They're waiting, guessing what happened. But I'm milking the moment to keep them interested. Then, the black and white glossy caught up with me weeks later along with a copy of the magazine. I was shocked to see myself on the cover of Das Deutsche Madel as an inspiring example of young Aryan womanhood and athletic female prowess. Me, Leah de Montieri, posing in the animal cage with the big cat's paw laying on my shoulder. God knows what other phony propaganda they perpetrated with that photo. All I know is that I got 3 long scratches from the lion on my shoulder that day. The wound was superficial. No muscle or tendon damage. You can barely see the scars on my upper left arm, but I cover them with spangled epaulets. I've never revealed that in public before. I am getting old. When I ran across the glossy picture after the war, I decided not to tear it up. I kept it to remind myself that in the end, we destroyed him and his Reich. That I'm still here, and so are the Jewish and Roma peoples, along with the gay and disabled performers he tried so hard to eradicate, and the children of the circus. It was a strange state of affairs for Jews in Berlin that summer of 1936, with the Nazi Party fooling us into believing things weren't as bad as we'd heard. All the anti-Semitic posters and signs forbidding entrance to Jews were removed from public places because of the Olympic Games. No wonder we didn't see the horror coming. I dismissed their goose-stepping and saluting as a bunch of hooligans. It wouldn't last. Foolish of me, n'est-ce pas? Anguished sighs, coughs. I left the Swope Circus to let my shoulder heal and moved on, much to the displeasure of Frau Swope, but it was getting too Aryanized for me, and I didn't like what I was seeing in Germany. The persecution of Jews and Roma was escalating, and it frightened me. Afterwards, I worked in circuses across Europe, moving about, searching for a place to hang my heart, a place where it wouldn't get banged about like a balloon, blown up and away to the top of the tent, stuck there all by itself, alone. I rolled along like a Ferris wheel. During the war, we called it the Russian wheel, reaching great heights in circuses in the Netherlands and Sweden, then spinning downward when jealousy and clashing personalities blindsided me. It was all about survival. My life had its ups and downs, more downs, and romance. Over the years, I had my share of love affairs, but in the end, I was left with a lonely heart. I almost got married, but I never met a man I could trust. I had a longing for my own brood, but I accepted the fact I'd never have children. As the war dragged on, I didn't allow myself to get close to my fellow performers. Too dangerous. There could be an informant among them. I kept my distance, but I missed bonding with them. I pushed down any emotions to concentrate on just surviving. I had no real family, no support. I let my shoulders slump. I'm tired. It's not easy sitting up straight under the lights. I dared to take a moment to let my age show, closing my eyes as if I'm dozing off. I'm not. I just need to breathe. In, out, in, out. I'm fine now. I continue. Enough of my sentimental flashbacks. We're not here to hear the regrets of an old circus queen who wore too many spangles. I've invited you here today into my world of circus because of the children we saved during the war, and how I found myself caught up in the resistance. How a trapeze artist used the spotlight to keep alive and fool the Nazis, as well as the odd twist of fate that gave me back a mother's greatest gift. I reacted to the Nazi occupation by keeping my head down. It wasn't until 1943 I faced my fears and joined the resistance, thanks to a very brave Jewish woman and her son and daughter. I will always have a special place in my heart for Esther Fehler's children, referenced in the movie clip you saw. You'll understand why, as I continue with my story. Then again, how I got here is a tale both sad and intriguing. But what's important to me is setting the record straight about what happened during the war, even if I have to put up with all this nonsense. Still, it's been a homecoming I never thought I'd see, a chance to revisit those times at Le Cirque Casini, a place of fantasy and magic filled with heart, especially for a child who had nothing but her loneliness for company and a talent for trick riding. We circus people live in a dream world of the impossible, the glow and glitter of the spotlight, perfect timing and bigger-than-life spectacle. Where did the years go? But the minute I smell the greasy popcorn and dip my toe into the loose sawdust, dusting my soft ballet slippers, my mind leaves my body and I land back in 1943. The crowd settles. I continue. I shall begin with that unforgettable springtime in 1943 when I was performing on the trapeze at Circus Richter, a traveling tent circus set up, as I mentioned, along the French-Belgian border. Nothing like Le Cirque Casini, which was far more of a glamorous sort of super circus. That was a tumultuous time when I had that famous run-in with the Gestapo officer you saw on the big screen, and I ended up back here in Paris. I calmed down, speaking to the crowd in a low, husky voice. Le Cirque Casini was the last place I wanted to be. I swore never to return here, after enduring a long, heartbreaking journey when I left Paris in 1925. For those of you who can't do the math, I glare at the impertinent reporter, I was a heartbroken girl of 18 back then, in a torn, spangled costume, with no future, and a scandal riding on my back that left me childless. I leave out the part about the man who changed the course of my life, an extraordinary circus performer who captured my soul high up under the big top when he stole my heart, then broke it, leaving me no choice but to run away from the pain on that rainy night, alone. We had words. He said he loved me, but I could see there was no future for us. Life had dealt me a winning hand when I met him, a glorious romance with a bittersweet ending neither of us could control. I had to leave, or both our careers would have been ruined. It was the last time I let a man make me cry. I choke back the emotion that hits me. I haven't spoken about him in years, pushed that time so far to the back of my mind, I thought I was done with it. I guess I'm not. The worst part is I shall have to face it here with these folks, strangers, because I meet up with him again in my story. All of a sudden, my emotions take over and I'm close to tears, remembering that grueling part of my youth when I ran as far away as I could from the Paris circus after I lost my baby. But I go on with as much bravado as I can muster, seeing how promoting a film and speaking about myself is new to me. Over the next few years, I worked on the continent in one circus after another, making a name for myself with the only thing I had left, my skills as a bareback rider and an aerialist. I worked hard for years to combat the idea that a girl in a trapeze act was there merely to help the male aerialist, a pretty ribbon to tie up the act and give it glamour. I did that all right, used whatever feminine allure I had to grab the spotlight, to prove I'm just as good as the men. I played the Winter Garden in Berlin and La Scala, where I performed death-defying trick riding, something which came in handy later, Circus Krone in Munich and the famed Swope Circus. It wasn't all glamorous. By 1941, life as we'd known it became dangerous and frightening. A creeping horror known as the National Socialist Party swept over the small towns in Eastern Europe where we set up our tents. Then a funny-looking man proclaimed himself the Führer. I saw what that madman did to Jewish people and Roma, the heart of circus people. We learned real fast to keep our heads down, change our names, to dye our hair, and we got fake passports. And it worked. We became a refuge for the unwanted, the hunted. The Nazis became so bedazzled by the shows we put on, night after night and town after town. They had no idea we were working against them behind their backs, hiding Jews, helping downed airmen get back home, saving children. I paused to get my breath. Not a sound from the crowd. I came in contact with a small resistance cell. I did what I could to help them, like keeping Jewish performers from discovery by the Nazis. My cover was my act in a traveling circus. We each did our part. Dutch, Belgian, even German, and French. Each time I took more and more risks high up under the big top, thrilling the audience with dangerous tricks. Then one day I found myself back in Paris. It was 1943, when the skies darkened overhead with Allied bombers, the drone of their engines, giving us hope that freedom from Nazi rule was imminent and my work in the underground became more important than ever. When I wasn't flying through the air, I fought hard against the Nazis. "Come on, you fought the Nazis," that same reporter tosses out. "Yes, me." I hear that irritation in my voice again. I've kept my story to myself for so long. I don't know how to answer these questions. Most come from young reporters too green to know any better. I huff out a breath. Remember, I'm a pro and continue. I wasn't an under-the-cover-of-darkness saboteur blowing up trains, or a courier stuffing secret messages in my garters. Quite the opposite. I fought the Boche by being in the spotlight, risking my life more than 18 meters high up under the big top, twice a day, my costume dripping with hand-sewn sequins sparkling like tiny stars under the lights, inviting every eye to watch me swing from bar to bar, and then let go. Whoosh! I make the sound of flying and they laugh. Bon. No sarcastic remarks, giving me the courage to keep talking. I flew across the big top at breakneck speed, as fast as 100 kilometers an hour, with the wind in my face, before the catcher grabbed me around the forearms, then slid down to my wrists to get a firm grip on me. "Your wrists, madame?" "Yes, wrists." "Why is that?" someone asks, sincerity in their voice. I smile. If he seized me by the fingers, he couldn't hold on to me. A faulty grip spelled more than a mishap for me. It could mean death. My timing had to be perfect. And not too early. If my timing was bad, or my swing across the big top too short, the catcher would miss grabbing me, and I'd plunge straight down toward the ground so fast I'd leave a trail of sequin stardust behind me. If I did fall, I'd fall backward, crashing into the safety net, the metal framework rattling and creaking, my body bouncing up and down like a sparkly rubber ball. If I landed wrong, I could break my back. Gasps, whispers. I saw it happen in 1934 in a circus in Munich, when a trapeze artist got seriously injured when the fly bar broke and he fell into the net. He fractured his left arm, suffered broken ribs and deep body bruises. I saw it again in 1941. That time the girl died. "What does this have to do with fighting Nazis?" that snippy reporter calls out, digging his hand into a large paper cone of hot popcorn embossed with the Cirque Casini logo, a pretty blonde aerialist on a swing, and a bald, old clown in whiteface. Seeing it again after all these years makes me smile. That girl is me. and the clown with the deep wrinkles framing his smile like roads taken his socks. A funny gentleman, so close to my heart. Even now I hear him laughing. So get your spangles on, Leah, and let's tell these people the story you never told. It's good to have you back in my life, old friend, even if you're only in my mind. My pretty Leah, we had it all, n'est-ce pas? Socks loved to say. The stars to make a stairway to the moon where no one could touch us, until they came. God, he hated the Nazis. But that's a story for another day. For now, he'd encourage me to keep going and leave nothing out, Leah, no matter how much it hurts. The world must know what happened here. A slight dizziness threatens to derail me. I wish my circus family was here with me. Socks, Hugo and Pat, Zira, Wanda, Monsieur Raymond, Elsa, and of course Josephine and Bebe, Maman Elephant and her calf. God, I miss them. Then, as if there's still magic in the old prop piece I'm sitting on, a pretty girl would disappear, then reappear in the big box next to me. I feel a tremor zing through me, like I'm not alone sitting up here on the platform. I have the feeling others will appear too. I'd give anything to see my love again, feel his arms around me, his voice low and gravelly, telling me he'd protect me. And then me shooting back I was doing fine on my own. I wasn't, and it took me a long time to trust him. He wasn't part of the circus family, but we're not there in the story, so it will have to wait. I fidget with the red sequins on my high-collared, white satin cape. I pray the audience stays with me. What worries me is I'm talking about an era that doesn't exist anymore. No cell phones, television, computers. We used good old-fashioned legwork to get out our message of resistance. We printed out political tracts on Roneo machines, left the stacks of news sheets on park benches in the nearby village, and hid them in the folds of the circus program to fight the occupiers. Le Cirque Casini was set up here in 1943 in the suburbs of Paris and remained here until the liberation under order of the Reich. There were some rough years after that, recovering from the Nazi occupation and the turmoil, which you'll see later. The good thing that came out of it was that Le Cirque Casini had gained an audience, and people came to see us from the city, even though we operated out of a threadbare tent with holes in it. So the decision was made to set up here permanently. Of course, we weren't so fortunate back then to have this modernized tent with all its gizmos, strobe lighting, climate-controlled temperature, and fancy seats. We had little heating, no air conditioning. The temperature high up in the tent on the trapeze was stifling on hot days, and outhouses for the performers and circus-goers that smelled like animal cages. Groans, gasps. Oh my, what worries me is, will this group and their texting thumbs embrace such a different time? I must figure out how to bring them in closer to me, like a maman lion folding her big paws around her cubs, playful and cuddling them close to her heart, where it's warm and secure. I'm about to find out. Here I go. I loved the cheers, the adulation, my name high up on the bill. I thought the ride would never end. Foolish, of course. But I worked hard, and before I was 20, I was a headliner, doing 2.5 somersaults. Showing off, are you? A little. Bien, Leah, but aren't you forgetting you're not the only drawing card here? The film is called Queen of the Flying Trapeze, but there's another side to this story, remember? I sigh. The producers will have my hide if I don't talk about what sells tickets. Murder, jealousy, intrigue, true crime, I think they call it. I heave out a big gulp of air. I can't ignore the ugly part of my story. not with the movie trailer teasing it with the line, "When a serial killer targets circus queens in Nazi-occupied Paris, it's up to a beautiful aerialist to stop him before she becomes his next victim." I know they're waiting for it, so get it over with. I clear my throat. My story takes a strange turn in 1943, when a devious, calculating pervert who operated behind the scenes began murdering young women. At the time, I didn't realize I'd crossed paths with him before the war, this madman who targeted circus performers. But I met up with him again in Paris, a man dubbed the Magician by the press, because he eluded the police, disappearing without a trace until 1944 when I stopped talking, grabbed my chest. Do I really want to go through with this? Expose my deepest secrets to these strangers? Face my past? A past I never intended revisiting because it hurt too much? Granted, I can't see their faces, but what if they judge me? I did what I had to survive. Silence. They're waiting. I can't. I just can't. Then, "Please, Mademoiselle de Montieri, go on with your story," I hear a soft, feminine voice say somewhere in the upper bleachers. "We want to hear it." Something in her voice gives me courage, a friendliness about her that makes me think I know her. But that's impossible. Other voices chime in like a choir of angels, and who am I to turn down a request like that? "Ah bon, you shall have it. I will tell you everything I remember about this monster. You'll meet him in this next clip from the film," I begin in a strong voice. "We first became aware of the magician and his reign of terror during that spring of 1943, after the murder of Henriette de la Blanche. Henriette was a seasoned high-wire walker who performed in several circuses for more than a decade. She was famous for her evocative dance and elaborate Spanish costumes with rows and rows of ruffles hanging down from the wire." I close my eyes tight, but I can't block out the scene they're about to show. I heard what happened to her, but I wasn't there. But when we made the film, I wanted to be on set to pay homage to this brave circus queen. So here we go. Sit tight, and please, be aware what you're about to see is horrifying, not just the physical depravity this monster perpetrated on this girl, but the mental torture. Her story still makes my thinning hair curl. Chapter 2. Clip from the film Queen of the Flying Trapeze. Paris, France, March 1943. The Magician. "Hold the girl tight, Jan, so I may secure her to the chair and go about my business." The big man grunts his understanding as his boss, a 40-something physician, runs his fingers through his dark, straight-back hair in frustration, the poetic lift of his dark brow arched. Garbed in black like a dashing cavalier, he eyes the girl with disdain as his manservant squeezes her arms with his large hands. "She must pay for her folly." "Let me explain, Monsieur le Docteur," she blurts out, panicked. "Please." He slaps her face. She groans. "I'm past listening to excuses, Mademoiselle de la Blanche. You knew the rules when you came to me for help, begged me to make you beautiful again, freeing you of ugly scar tissue and uglier memories, and yet you disobeyed them." The physician grips the leather strips he holds in his hand, making a fist, his anger on display as he paces up and down the polished marble floors in his grande maison in a fashionable arrondissement in Paris, hidden off the boulevard, quiet, safe, no disruptions. "If you did as the Gestapo ordered, as you claim, mademoiselle, I wouldn't have to drag Jan out of the cabaret without finishing his cognac." He sighs heavily. And pay my manservant extra. Jan, a big and burly man, clean-shaven, grunts his approval. The doctor continues, "But betraying the Gestapo, I will not tolerate that. My reputation with the secret police is at stake because of your stubbornness as well as my standard of living. Do you know what a good brandy goes for these days? Far more than a poor physician makes, laboring in a Nazi hospital. Fortunately, I have filled my coffers to the hilt, fulfilling the requests of impudent, vain Nazi officers, eager to perpetuate their Aryan myth. Perfect cheekbones, jutting chins, straight noses. One SS captain insisted I etch out a dueling scar on his left cheek as a badge of Prussian honor to impress pretty Parisians. Poured wine into the crevice himself when I wasn't looking to make it more realistic looking after criticizing my skills as a plastic surgeon. And then you failed me, getting yourself on the Gestapo blacklist, mademoiselle, leaving me no choice but to bring you here. For I cannot allow you to fall into the hands of the secret police. They have no finesse, no respect for a man's talent, and will destroy your beauty I worked so hard to restore to further their own stupid medical experiments. I cannot allow that to happen. Cannot, do you hear?" The girl leans forward. "What you asked of me is unholy, monsieur. Sending innocents to their death." "Jews are not innocent, mademoiselle. But that's not my problem. You are." He circles the girl to get a better view. She in turn regards him. The paleness of his skin belies the fiery dynamic of his persona, his padded, square shoulders, strong jaw. But it's his eyes that hold the woman in a trance. She stares into his black pools of perpetual movement, nearly paralyzing her when the manservant holds her down in the sturdy cane chair. Outside, a storm rages, and heavy rain beats on the window pane, clearly pleasing the doctor by the grin on his face. "Ah, we have the elements in our favor, Jan, adding drama to today's episode in our Circus Queen adventures." Again, the man grunts. The doctor rubs his fingertips together as he observes his victim with an eagerness that surprises the unfortunate mademoiselle as Jan keeps her arms pinned to her sides. She struggles in Jan's strong grasp while the doctor relishes her futile attempts to free herself. She resists, but to no avail when the manservant leans down and sniffs the back of her neck, making her shudder uncontrollably. She screams. "Cry out if you will," says the doctor. "No one can hear you." "Keep this creep away from me." The doctor pinches her cheeks. "You must excuse Jan. He's the curious type, sniffing the mesdemoiselles like a hound. But he's harmless. I'm not a piece of meat, monsieur." The physician laughs. "Oh, but you are, mademoiselle. A lovely addition to the ongoing display of my work of beauty that can't be destroyed by the SS." He giggles. "However, if you don't quiet down," he brandishes a scalpel in his hand. "No, please," the girl cries out, her eyes wild with a fervor that unnerves him, his eyelids fluttering, but only briefly. While he readies his instruments, he hums a tune as the girl squirms in the chair, rocking back and forth. He drops the scalpel, curses. "Don't fidget, mademoiselle, or I shall be forced to slice open your cheek, and that shan't be pleasant for either of us." He nods to his manservant. Without a word, Jan forces her hands, palms down, onto the armrests of the chair so the doctor can tie her to the side arms. The girl arches her back, digging her palms into the armrests, crying out, "Stop, please!" Waiting, trembling. She struggles in Jan's strong grasp, while the doctor relishes her futile attempts to free herself. When he attempts to gag her, she tries to bite him. He yanks his hand away, shock making his eyes widen and then anger. He snarls, "You'll pay for that, mademoiselle." He's quick to notice a fine wetness sliding down her cheeks, onto her neck. When Jan holds her head up and the doctor gags her with muslin strips, then leans over her, his fingers stroking her skin. I regret I must put you through this awkward phase before I kill you, mademoiselle, since I was so proud of my work, renewing your burned skin with pink perfection. But you leave me no choice but to add you to my display of angel dolls. Chapter 3. Paris, France, 2007. Le Cirque Casini. Leah. Oh, God, that scene gives me the creeps. I shiver. I hear sighs and coughing, heated whispers coming from the audience. I'm not the only one disgusted with the doctor's unnatural obsession to destroy what he created, how it guts out your psyche like nails raked across a blackboard. I clear my throat. Again, it's becoming a habit. We were at war in 1943, and not just with the Nazis, I continue, but with this serial killer roaming loose in Paris, murdering beautiful young women in the circus world. We presumed the magician was a man, since women mass murderers numbered few. Who will be next? We asked. I go silent, curling my fingers up tight. Let the audience digest what they saw. I hope I didn't sour their enthusiasm to stay and hear my story. It was the producer's idea to show clips of the film with the magician. Unleash the beast, in their words, grab them by the throat. I protested against it, insisting the serial killer is but a part of my story. I pray no one walks out, complaining they didn't come here today to see a horror film. Then again, what could be more horror-filled than what happened in Paris and Poland and everywhere else during the war? I lift my chin, determined not to be put back in the box now that I'm here. So if they're too weak-bellied to take it, they can walk out and best be done with them. I wait for the verdict. Whispers, coughing, shuffling, but no one leaves. I heave out a sigh of relief. Thank God. But it's not the first time I find myself the object of overzealous promoters. How can I forget I appeared on the playbill cover for the renowned Swope Circus in Berlin in a scanty, see-through costume that wouldn't last 2 seconds while I did my act, flying high on the trapeze above a hungry lion, his mouth open wide, waiting for me to drop in. A moment of mirth, but I have no light moments about the terror I experienced back then with a lion. I'm not ready to tell them that part of the story. Meanwhile, I hear someone call out, "Tell us more about this killer, Mademoiselle de Montieri." Yes, who was he? A Nazi? I shake my head. I can't, not yet. Okay, but you're gonna have to spill the beans sometime. That same reporter with the short haircut waves his notebook at me. He reminds me of a tall, skinny toothbrush. He infuriates me, but I won't lose my temper. I simmer, scowl, and fuss with my white satin cape, high collar, red sequins sparkling under the